Hello everyone, my name is Karina Melnyk. I would like to consider today the topic about the Hierarchical Information System for management of the targeted advertising. My colleagues Natalia, Borysova, Viktoriia, Melnyk and me are going to share with you some of the ideas that we have discovered in this area. Profitability of any company depends on many factors. One of the important is advertising. Targeted advertising is a form of online advertising that focuses on the specific traits, interests, and preferences of a consumer. Many various methods of market research are used to determine the target audience. Depending on the need of the market, the strategic goal of an enterprise, and characteristics of the advertised product or service, all potential buyers should be divided into groups. It can be such variant: core, primary target audience, secondary target audience, and not included in the target audience. The advantages of determining the target audience are obvious. However, to improve the effectiveness of an advertising campaign, manager can divide the target audience into segments based on the personal characteristics of the clients. So, the first task is to identify the target audience. It is a classification task since it divides customers into several predefined groups. Input information is a set of characteristics of potential buyers. To solve the problem, it is necessary to analyze the domain area for creating a portrait of buyer persona, undertake review of approaches and methods for determining the target audience, and formalize a method for resolving the task. The second task is to solve the problem of segmentation of the target audience. It is a clustering task. To solve it, it is necessary to analyze methods and implications to solve the clustering task, formalize proposed method, perform numerical study, and evaluate the proposed approach. Therefore, the purpose of this research is to develop an integrated hierarchical information system that would combine the functions of system for determining the target audience and a system of user segmentation for the distribution of targeted advertising. There are many generally accepted models in direct marketing, which can be used for both target audience identifying and customer segmentation. Each method has its own advantages and disadvantages, limitations, and is capable of providing information of varying completeness and accuracy. The conducted analytical review of mathematical methods and features of the subject area allows making conclusion that the clustering analysis, namely method which allows to calculate the similarities between compared objects, can be used for target audience identifying task, and Cummings clustering approach can be used for the customer segmentation task. To solve the problem of determining the target audience and the segmentation of potential users, it is necessary to develop a functional model of the business process for managing targeted advertising delivery. For this, it is proposed to use the idea of zero methodology. The first step is marketing research. It allows to find, to collect, and to analyze the received information for reducing the uncertainty in making managerial decisions. The goal of the next stage is to highlight informative features that will fully reflect the portrait of a potential buyer. Next, a profile of ideal buyer persona is created. Defining a buyer or audience persona helps to create product or service to better target ideal customer. Depending on the final product is designed for, the appropriate templates are used, B2B or B2C buyer persona templates, as well as the result of marketing research. The next step is to split buyers into two groups, target audience and non-target audience. To improve the effectiveness of an advertising campaign, the target audience can be segmented dependent on the needs of potential customers. It is necessary to solve the clustering task according to the selected indicators. Let's take a closer look at the task of identifying potential customers. The model for solving the task is presented in the form of an activity diagram. Input data for this model is portrait of an ideal buyer. Then the model should calculate similarity between continuous, ordinal, or categorical data of buyer persona and every customer at the same time. There are many such measures. It is proposed in this research work to use Gauer coefficient for calculating the resemblance of mixed data types. The process of forming the target audience depends from comparing results between calculated similarity measures and threshold value. Let's consider a model for solving the task of segmented a targeted audience using CMIS clustering method. First, the manager has a hypothesis about the number n of clusters or segments and their centers. It can be based on theoretical considerations or the result of marketing research. If the assumptions are not obvious, then a series of experiments with different numbers of clusters can be performed to find the optimal portion. The main drawback of the CMIS algorithm is that it only works with numeric values. The input customer information is mixed information. Therefore, in this paper, it is proposed to use Gauer coefficient to calculate the distance between the centers of the clusters and the objects, since it works with mixed data. Then, it is necessary to calculate the distance between the centers of the clusters and each object. The object, or client, is assigned to the closest cluster. The new coordinates of the center for each cluster are found based on the use of the formula for the arithmetic mean of all values that belongs to the current cluster. This process is repeated until the centers of gravity stop migrating in space. The proposed architectural solution for the hierarchical information system for the management of the targeted advertising in the form of a deployment diagram is shown here. This research proposes to use the client-server architectural pattern. Such architecture allows sharing the data processing function to several separate servers. It separates the functions of storing, processing, and presenting data for more efficient use. The presentation component, or client, is responsible for the user interface. The middle layer is split into two separate components to improve the performance of the informational system. Application server is responsible for the application logic. Mail server is devoted to process advertising messages. The data layer is designed to store and manage the information processed by the information system. Here is a database that allows to implement the interpretation of information about the domain area in the form of formalized data. To check the performance of the developed information system, 3 tasks have been solved to promote and use sports club servers as aquaerobics: target audience identifier task, customer segmentation task, and management task of targeted advertising. The target audience has been determined based on the database of clubs clients and among users of the social networks Instagram and Facebook. The aforementioned marketing research would determine the set of indicators for identifying the target audience. Then, the management of the fitness club has been created the profile of the target audience. As we can see, some indicators for the portrait of the potential consumer have several values. It adds uncertainty during the deciding whether to include a particular potential client in the target group. The usage of the proposed technology could clearly define the future client based on the varying process of the threshold value, which helps to increase or filter the customer base. Analysis of customer preferences and the impact of aquaerobics on the human body shows that potential customers could be divided into 3 segments. The first segment is responsible for improving the muscles and visible changes of the body clients. The aim of the second group of clients is psychological and physical rehabilitation, that is, to relieve muscle and emotional tension and problems. The purpose of the third segment of clients is the organization of leisure that is more entertaining than strengthening the body. The result in this case is the acquisition of the new acquaintance, an interest in pastime, and increase in self-esteem. To solve the segmentation task, the following indicators have been proposed. The snippet of input data for 10 potential clients and result of resolving the segmentation task is presented in the table. These clients were chosen as initial centers for 3 clusters. A result of using the K-means clustering method at the first stage is the set of values of similarity measure between chosen clients and others. It is a base for defining the belonging of each client to one of the cluster. Next step is to calculate new clustered centers. After the 6 iterations, the clustered centers have stabilized. Analysis of obtained data has confirmed the proposed hypothesis about division of the target audience into 3 segments. Efficiency estimated of the information system was carried out separately for each task: target audience identifying task, customer segmentation task, and management task of targeted advertising. The good way to evaluate the performance of a classifier is calculating of the precision and recall. A series of experiments were carried out with different conditions. The values of such metrics are quite high and very close to 1, which indicates a high classification efficiency. The RAND index has been chosen for evaluating the quality of clustering algorithm. It calculates a proximity measure between 2 clusters based on the comparing the results of pairs that are assigned in the same or different clusters in the predicted and true clustering process. The obtained value of the RAND index is rather close to 1. It indicates an almost complete coincidence of clustering classes, which showed a high efficiency of clustering. Conversion rate has been used to evaluate the effectiveness of targeted advertising mailing. Different advertisements about the new service of the sport club were prepared for the clients of each cluster. The set of data was prepared according to the customer sections within a month from the date of said advertisements. An advertising company is considered as successful if the conversion rate values have reached from 3 to 5%. In our case, the high conversion rate values can be explained by the fact that the target audience include both real customers from the sport club's databases and new customers found in social networks. Obtained data shows the feasibility of using the proposed methodology in real conditions. So, in this study, all the tasks were solved and the goal was achieved. Thank you for your attention.